Namaste. My name is Jeffrey Armstrong, Kavindra Rishi. Our topic tonight is an introduction to the ancient Vedic science of yoga, or the 4 processes of self-actualization that empower an individual to perfect their human potential. This topic has made its way out into the public of the entire world in advance of it being defined. Yoga is everywhere. There are hundreds of millions of yogis in places no one would expect. If this was poetic justice, then the colonized culture of India would have invaded the world with its culture in a few short years. You have to think it's rather humorous. And it's profoundly important for all of us to think about, because I'm going to propose to you that Vedic Vidya, that the knowledge that has been contained in the culture we call India, and the particular brand of knowing called yoga, is the essence of the conversation. And until you find a vocabulary to include that conversation in your thinking on its terms and not yours, then you will call it a religion, which it is not. You will call it a philosophy, which it is not. It is only a little bit of all of those things. So the time has come to use the correct terminology. We live in a scientific world. All of the things happening around us are happening because they're programmed correctly. And so it is that I propose to you, this is not chatty TV. This is chitty TV. And you should be saying, what does that mean? I know what chatty TV is when people just talk endlessly about whatever they want. But what is chit? It's a Sanskrit word. What does it mean? If you don't know, how could you possibly understand what chitty TV is trying to do? And this is the dilemma. I'll tell you what chit means in a moment. But the dilemma is that we've been supposedly trying to understand the culture we call India, when India is not its name. It's actually called Bharat. Thank you. And Bharat is its ancient name before there was any trace of the civilization that we come from, thousands and thousands of years ago. But so far, because the English language thinks it has enough understanding words and doesn't need any new ones. The English language has abundance of object words it's taken from all over the world while it was colonizing the world. But so far, it hasn't taken the medicine that goes with yoga. And so here it is, ladies and gentlemen, that medicine is called Sanskrit. Sanskrit is not just an ancient language. Sanskrit is the most perfect language on our planet except for mathematics. There is no language on our planet, provably, not my opinion, not an emotion, not I wish it was true, not some faith that goes with a belief. It is provably the most precise language on our planet. And it has provably been here for at least 12,000 years. I don't need to go further back for you to get the point. So I want you to understand that unless you, whether you are an NRI, non-resident Indian, or a neo-yogi, or someone just curious, it's very critical that you get new terminology, because the English language does not have the words to say what chitty TV is trying to show you, what chitty media is bringing to the world. So that's why I said you should start by saying, oh, what does that mean? It's not chatty TV, it's chitty TV. What does chitty mean? Allow me to share that with you. Chit is a Sanskrit word which means the consciousness that pervades each individual's mind-body complex. And that means that consciousness does not come from matter. It is shining through a material covering. Just as certainly as I am wearing this clothing, not am the clothing. So we are all wearing a body. This is the basic premise of the culture of India, of the so-called Hindu culture, of Bharat, of this ancient civilization whose foundational premise has not been acceptable in Western civilization and still is not, which is that we are immortal beings who cannot die and have chosen to come here, where we are, in this realm, whatever you may call it. But we are immortal individual beings from another realm whose name is also not in English. Who we are is not in English. There is no English word. Where we are, there is no English word. You may think, oh, on earth. No, not correct. The original name of earth is actually Mata Bhumi, or at least the Sanskrit name, which is at least 12,000 years old, which is much older than earth, the English word. So it's time we all grow up a little bit and get a grown-up vocabulary if we really want to know and speak about things that do not exist in our language. That is the difference between learning French to go on vacation in Paris. Wonderful. Object words, hi, how do you do? Hello, how's the weather? Parlez-vous français? Hablez usted español? All very natural, of course. You're going on vacation, you'd want to know about the objects, you'd want to know how to talk to people and how to say hello and how to say how's the weather. You're not going to ask them to teach you their deepest philosophical discourse in hi, hello, Spanish, French, English, Italian, or any language. But mostly, that is what people speak. Or they assume, and the assumption is incorrect, that when another culture is communicating with yours, their language and your language will have identical meanings and words. It's not so. That's the arrogant assumption of English as the colonizing language of a planet that it has not shown much interest in really understanding, just stealing from. And so much of what we are doing on Chitty Media is explaining the true history of destroying most of the cultures of our planet or badly damaging them. And they're in recovery right now. So Chitty Media is a part of the renaissance and recovery and re-speaking of the ancient civilization of Bharata, where the Mahabharata took place 7,500 or so years ago, from which came the Bhagavad Gita and many other important aspects of the Vedic civilization. Now, all of this is prelude to something important, and that is if you are from Bharat, you probably haven't refined your English to the point that it's easy and comfortable for you to talk about the meaning words from your culture in English, because there are no English synonyms or equivalents that allow you to do so. If you are from outside of that culture and you only speak English, it may be news to you that there are no equivalent terms in Christianity, Islam, Judaism, modern science, none of those religions. And yes, you heard me right. None of those blind faith religions. Modern science is blind faith. We'll all be fine if I just learn how to make cars. We'll all be fine if I just manipulate matter. No, we won't be. In fact, we're beginning to see it ragged around the edges. So that religion isn't doing so well. That blind faith belief system, just manipulating matter, will solve all the problems. No, it won't. Next, 3 religions with varying degrees of bits and fragments of truth that they have picked up over thousands of years, assembled, put together, are fond of, happy with even. We're okay so far, but as you've seen in many of the chitty TV broadcasts, they didn't stop there. They forced that minimalist understanding of history onto the whole world at gunpoint. So one of our topics on chitty is to talk about that. But if we only talk about that, then the violence and domination of colonization is domineering the conversation that should be about what is the true knowledge of each culture, not just India, each culture. And so it is that I have decided to do a 5-part series, and this is the introduction, to share with you in each of the subsequent 4 broadcasts. So this is the first in a series of 5. Those subsequent broadcasts will explain to you 4 different kinds of yoga. It will explain the yoga you are now seeing, the one with bodily postures and breathing and meditation, but doesn't require that here. But it did where it came from. So, if you think you understand yoga, but you do not know Sanskrit, you do not understand yoga. Plain and simple. But if you want to understand yoga, start learning Sanskrit words that do not exist in English, not in French, not in Spanish, not in German, not in Latin, and not in Greek. So go back 3,000, 4,000 years, and they still do not have the same precise vocabulary of Sanskrit. So it's important you not think this is just a political diatribe of a country trying to assert political or social dominance in the modern world. It is not that at all. That is simply the mood of the world that colonized most of the world and lit it on fire and now accuses others of politics without getting to know their true nature. So this dialogue is very important. If you sincerely feel vitamin deficient in the discussion of the world religions, modern science, modern politics, then these are the missing vitamins that you have not been given yet and have not been taking and are therefore ill at ease in their absence, I would propose to you. And therefore, they are part of the medicine for what? Clarity. It's not that you're supposed to believe something. That's up to you. But without the right words, you can't even decide to think about it. That's what you need to understand so that you can entertain these ideas. Not accept them because I say so. Don't you dare. Not accept them because anyone points their finger and says so. Not accept them because you'll go to hell if you don't. No, that is not the premise of the Sanskrit culture of Bharat. The premise is we all have the equipment. What is it called? Chit, of chitty TV. We all have the consciousness that is emanating from our true self at the core of our being. So here's the next Sanskrit word. You must know. That place of emanation, that bright, shiny spot inside of all living entities, all the humans, all of everyone, that shiny, energetic force that reaches the surface as consciousness, we are all called an Atma, A-T-M-A. We are an Atma. Before we were dressed, before we had a body, before we were here, and that each one of us, each of you, each of me, you, all of us, individually, decided to come here. And we came from another place, which also has a name. The name of that place is Brahman. It is a place where everything is luminous, and there is no dark, and there is no time, but there still is reality, and the reality we see here is an image of reflected reality from the original reality in Brahman. And we, as individual beings, as Atmas, migrated here to have this experience. It's like we're on a tour. It's as if you decided to go on an ocean cruise and you were going to go around the whole planet. But so many things happened that you almost forgot where you were when you started. And so it is that we need to ask if the Atmas all, that's all of us, came here. Here is called Prakriti. These are all the words you're going to need to know for this session. Atma, Brahman, Prakriti, and Mata Bhumi. The planet we're on, Bhumi gave Humi and made humans and Homi and all of that. Yes, Sanskrit is the grandmother of English and all the European languages, but yoga is our subject. So the question is, if you're going to change your perspective, then you must ask questions that may not have existed previously in your culture. And you need words that do not exist in your culture. And you cannot substitute words that do not mean the same thing. So there are no synonyms in English for what I said, for Brahman, for Atma, for Prakriti. No synonyms, no other words than those that will say what I just said. With that in mind, the English speakers need to do two things. Get an etymological dictionary and brush up the precise meaning of your English. Two, then learn more of the vagaries of English so they can be used precisely. And for the people from India, from Bharat, you need to learn how to say the meaning of Sanskrit words in English with precision. Or this is just going to be an argument. It's just going to be a shouting match of misunderstanding. And the purpose of these next classes are to describe the 4 kinds of yoga. So yoga is the other word. We came from Brahman. We are all Atmas. We came to Prakriti. We're on a planet called Mata Bhumi. And yoga is the process of returning back to where we came from after graduating and being here long enough to have fully experienced it. When the tour is over, folks, you need to volunteer to go back where you came from. That is not called religion. That is called, ready, yoga. And the last word for this session in Sanskrit is the decision to do that and successfully doing so is called moksha. M-O-K-S-H-A. Not mocha, those you get at the coffee shop here. Moksha. Of what? The Atma. From what? Prakriti, the place where everything is bound by time, in matter. And back to where? Brahman, where we came from. Through what process? Yoga. Yoga has no other meaning than that. There are methods of yoga, methodological processes of both inquiry and practice that empower us to go back and to stay in the consciousness that I'm sharing with you right now, the chitty consciousness, not just the chatty one, remember? The chitty consciousness is purposeful, precise, scientific, specific, and that conversation has been avoided like the plague so far by other religions who were jealous, science who doesn't even want to ask these questions, and colonizers who were just there to take stuff. So with that, welcome to the 4-class series on what yoga truly is. My name is Kavindra Rishi, Jeffrey Armstrong. See you next time, and have a Namaste day.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad.